Hello and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, and I am streaming live from outside of Boise, right outside of Boise, Idaho. And I am super excited to be in Idaho. You know, Idaho is one of my favorite states because it is a liberty-loving state, and so I travel to it as much as I can. And speaking of that, another liberty-loving state we're going to tomorrow will be Florida. So catch me on all our adventures when we go to Florida tomorrow. Today on our midweek podcast, I am super excited to introduce Lori Krajewski, and I hope I pronounced that right. And she is going to be talking about the body's amazing ability to heal itself. And if you follow our podcast, you will realize that Jan and I talk all the time how wonderful our bodies are created. And if we give it the right inputs, our body can heal itself. We are two pharmacists that don't believe in drugs to treat long-term disease. And that's a very, very powerful statement. So Lori is going to help educate us today about how some of the ways the body can heal itself. So without further ado, Lori, welcome to our show.
Thank you so much for having me.
So tell me a little bit about your history and how we got here.
Well, my history could take a couple hours, but in a nutshell, I'm probably no different than a lot of people that you've had on your show. My early childhood and really my whole life, I've never really felt good, physically healthy. I've never really had a healthy body. And over the years, it just got worse and worse. I developed more symptoms year after year. There was a time when I was about 20 that I got really ill one night, and things just really took a downhill turn, if they could even go any further downhill. And it really changed the trajectory of my life. I, of course, did seek medical care, but really quickly, it was pretty obvious that had nothing to offer. So I was really out in the weeds. This was a very long time ago. This was pre-internet, if anybody's even old enough to believe that. So I just didn't have a lot of access to a lot of health options at all outside of the medical community. And I was embarking on uncharted territory in a way. But I knew I had to try to figure out solutions to help me heal, because I just was not getting better. I was getting worse and worse and worse. And eventually I did cross paths with people who did know more than I did in the natural world, with herbs and tinctures and oils and natural medicines, so to speak. Mm-hmm. And I think those helped tremendously. I really do. But I just couldn't see the results that I really needed to see in order to really, ideally we want to thrive and we want to have abundant energy, right? And we really want to just accomplish things and really live the life out of life, right? And I just wasn't. I was chronically fatigued my whole life. And to some degree, I do still struggle with chronic fatigue. And since that time, I was around 20 when that really started to change for me. And I'm in my mid 50s now. So I kind of feel like I've earned my PhD multiple ways on my own. No discredit to the people who have earned them. But I have learned so much about the body and the body's ability to heal. Like you said, these bodies are miraculous. They are utterly miraculous when you really start to understand the interworkings and the system as a whole, and how if one little thing is not working, all of the cogs in the wheel are not doing their thing, it has an impact on everything. And if multiple things start to fall apart, it really does have a significant impact on everything. But the most important thing that I have found, if I can back up a little bit, when we go to a doctor, we present our symptoms, we hopefully match our symptoms with drugs. And in my situation, that was kind of true. They couldn't find a diagnosis. They couldn't give me an ICD-10 code, but they did have all kinds of drugs to offer me. And I just inherently was kind of like, why am I taking the drugs if you don't know what's wrong? I inherently always wanted to find the cause. And I don't know that a lot of medicines are set up ever to find the cause, especially in this country. But what's interesting is when you go into the holistic world or the integrative world or the functional medicine world, it kind of functions the same way. We still match symptoms with herbs or tinctures or whatever's, a bazillion things, right? What happens if we take away? What happens if we start pulling out some of the problems? What happens if we pull out all of the problems? And then we see what the body can do to heal. So what I discovered is it really isn't so much that, it's what you take away. And when you talk about the physical body, there's so many things that we can take away, but the strongest message that I really do hope to deliver to people is that we are so multifaceted. It isn't just this physical body. We have so many facets to ourself and what makes us who we are, that so many times we're so focused on the physical body and healing the physical body, we don't really understand how important the spiritual body is and the mental body and the emotional body, because those are profoundly important and seriously have an impact on our health. And I think that's grossly overlooked. So if there's a message that I can deliver, that would be the message, is that you absolutely do have to address the physical conditions and you can't ignore what's happening on the physical. But equally as important, you can't ignore what's happening on the spiritual level, and you can't ignore what's happening on the emotional level, and you can't ignore what's happening on the mental level. It's not separate. You know, if you show me where these things start and end, you can't. It's just not tangible in the way that the physical body is.
Well, so many things, including what you're talking about, the spiritual versus physical versus mental, we try to compartmentalize it.
Yes.
And we try to simplify it. And we've done that in science forever. And it just never works because, like you say, they're all one and the same.
Yeah. I
will tell you that on our podcast, we preach three things when it comes to overall general health. And it's sleep, diet, and exercise. Mm-hmm. And those are pretty much physical. Now, on the outlier that we don't talk about routinely, even though it's super, super important, is the mental, emotional, spiritual side. Yeah. And one of the reasons we don't is because it's just, it gets really, really deep. So we ask people, we tell people focus on sleep, exercise, and diet. But really, if you have bad relationships in your life that are causing emotional trauma, no matter how much you sleep and how much you exercise and how well you eat, you will never be healthy. You agree?
I absolutely agree. And I would take it even a little step further. From the time that we're born, we are programmed, right? As soon as we're born, the programming starts. Yeah. We don't realize it, but it does. And the minute that we can start to walk and the minute that we can start to talk, the programming really does kick in. And what I mean by programming is we need to be taught everything. We need to be taught the stove is hot. We need to be taught don't run in the road. We need to be taught everything. And some of the things that we're taught are not that healthy. So if we really start to unravel and unwrap and unpack all of the things that we've been taught, we can see that some belief systems have been developed and ingrained and really established that have developed our thoughts and have developed our perceptions, not just of ourselves, but our world and our society and our relationships and our work and what we're supposed to do for work. All of these things contribute or take away from our health, our spiritual health, our emotional health, our mental health, and our physical health. So it is absolutely the things that are unhealthy in our life, but ultimately it goes back to us, and it goes back to the belief systems that have been established that might really be working well for us or might really not be working well for us at all. And when you say this can really get deep, this is why people don't talk about this stuff. Yeah. It is pretty deep.
So give me an example. I know every person's different, but give me an example of something we're taught that is not good for us. That has to do with physical, that has to do with emotional or spiritual. Go ahead.
Absolutely. The first thing that comes to mind, especially being a woman, is, be a good girl, behave yourself. Children are naturally restrained and constrained, and parents just want them to behave. Right? I'm a mom. I wanted my son to behave, but especially as girls, we have to be a good girl. So we don't want you crying, and we don't want you acting out, and you need to be sugar and spice and everything nice. And that really kind of sets you up for no emotional regularity. You don't even know how to regulate your emotions anymore because you have to shut them off. You have to just behave yourself. Just, children should be seen and not heard, or, and especially as women, I don't want to get into the oppression avenue here, but there are certain ways that women are raised, and simultaneously there are ways that men are raised. Men are expected to be this and this and this, and not all men are, warriors. Some men are creative, and they are a little more emotional. And where is their emotional regulation? We're just not taught, especially in this country, and especially as children. We're not taught how to manage emotion or how to self-regulate. And then, you go to school and you learn all of these other patterns of behavior that are expected of you. Where do your emotions go? You still have them. You still get frustrated that somebody took your toy.
Right.
But you're not taught how to manage your reactions and your responses to the world around you. You're taught to suppress, ultimately. So we get really good at suppressing, and we get really good at, having our society face on. And the truth is those emotions don't go anywhere. They get actually trapped in your tissue. Anybody who works with muscle or fascia will tell you emotions get trapped. Somatic release therapy is all about all of the stuff that gets literally trapped in your tissues and your emotions, and sometimes can even shut down systems in your body and close pathways that are supposed to be working for you. It's kind of a snowball flying down the hill.
Yeah, and it definitely affects your physical health.
Absolutely. Your enzyme production can go down. Your fluids can get stagnant. Interstitial fluid that doesn't flow freely just creates a stagnant state. Your lymphatic system can shut down. Your lymphatic system is probably one of the most important systems aside from your immune system. And all of these things can get overburdened. Because why? Because spiritually we feel a little heavy. Mentally we feel really heavy. Emotionally we feel like concrete. And that will trickle down into the physical body. And then we wonder why we don't have enough energy to do a triathlon.
Right.
So
what do we do?
What do? We eat the elephant one bite at a time. We get the right sleep. And what does that mean? Stop, scrolling 2 hours before you go to bed. Stop with the blue light 2 hours before you go to bed. Start relaxing your body intentionally. Breath is so grossly overlooked and underrated. The power of our breath is tremendous. But how many of us actually do truly breathe? We probably breathe up to about here. Just breath alone, especially at night when we're starting to wind down and we intentionally want to relax our body and our mind to go to sleep. That it really is the best time to just really focus on our breath and breathing all the way down into our core, not breathing up to here, not breathing maybe halfway down, but just breathing all the way down into our core and intentionally silencing the mind to stop the chatter, to stop the to-do lists, to stop all of the things we got to do tomorrow. Tomorrow will happen. But for today, it's really intentionally bringing awareness to what's going on inside, not outside. And, from there, it's just a matter of learning how to manage your emotions in whatever way that makes sense to you. If you need a counselor, by all means, work with a counselor. If you find self-help books beneficial, absolutely read some self-help books, but find your way to start managing emotion. And I unilaterally across the board, what I see with everybody that I work with, anytime they can spend time in nature, they automatically start to relax and start to calm, and the nervous system can reset. The limbic system is a lot more relaxed. The vagus nerve starts to relax. The digestion starts to work better. Just really simple things, but we don't put ourselves on our calendar. We don't give ourselves the time that we give everyone else in our life, or that we give our work. Does anybody ever set 15 minutes, just 15 little minutes for themselves in a day to just be with themselves? I think that terrifies a lot of people.
And that's true. And I'll be honest with you. You're putting little things in my brain about, a reminder of, I've done most of the things you've talked about, biofeedback techniques and, resting and breathing and all that kind of stuff. But do I do it routinely? No, I don't. And I should. And I will tell you, those techniques work. I mean, you can feel you can just feel your body relax. You can feel the stress go away. It's amazing. But you do have to focus on it. You got to set time aside, or it's not going to happen. Just like if you don't set time aside to work out, you'll never work out. If you just keep saying, I'm going to start working out, but you don't put it on the calendar, it's not going to happen.
Exactly. If you don't schedule yourself on your own calendar, who is going to give you that time and space? Nobody else is going to do it for you. And just like anything else, just like we learned to ride a bike, just like we learned how to swim, it takes practice. And that's why I say, even if it's 5 minutes might seem like a lot to somebody who doesn't even really know how to spend time with themselves and how to hear their inner peace. So 5 minutes might be actually really daunting to some people. That's okay. Just plow through that 5 minutes and get used to doing that 5 minutes for 30 days. Now you've established a habit, just like we established all of the bad habits really easily without even knowing it. We can do that with good habits. And that process alone can help remove some of those bad habits. They don't have room anymore, because now we're focused on something that we do want and bringing into our life what we do want. We gently push out the things that we don't want by doing the things that we do, focusing on the piece that we do want, not how stressed we feel. Because the cliche, where attention goes, energy flows, is absolutely true. Wherever you focus your attention, that's what you're going to get. If you focus your attention on building your business and taking all of the right steps to do so, eventually your business is going to work. Absolutely. And the same is true for building a healthy body and a healthy emotional system and a healthy mental state and a healthy spiritual state. Whatever spirit looks for, whatever that looks like for you. If you really find solace in prayer, are you praying every day, even just for 5 minutes?
Or even just for 30 seconds, start somewhere, right?
Yeah.
And we say the same thing about exercise. It's like, if you're doing nothing now, 5 minutes of exercise of just walking is better than nothing. So start somewhere.
And have compassion for yourself. I think the most important thing is, this is not about self-punishment. This is not about focusing on all of the things you do wrong. Have some grace, have some compassion, and know that you can make a new choice today and say, you know what, body, I didn't know that my lymphatic system needed my help. I didn't know it needed my support, but I'm going to change that. Because like the heart pumps the blood, right? Nothing pumps the lymphatic system but movement. We have to move for it to move. So your lymphatic system needs your help. Can you help your lymphatic system every single day? Help it out. So if we kind of just look at it in a compassionate way, that we're helping our bodies, not like, oh, I've been really bad at taking care of myself, or I've really been bad at drinking my water. No. We're not going to go in the bad direction. We're going to go in, I'm going to drink more water today because that's one thing I can do to demonstrate kindness to myself. That's one thing I can do to support myself and my cells.
Yeah, focus on the positives.
Yes. Yes. We punish ourselves way too much. We're never, ever, you can never be too kind to yourself.
That's a really good point.
You can
So if
never
you were going to schedule 5 minutes to yourself,
yeah.
would it be best first thing when you wake up in the morning, middle of the day, end of the day? What do you see or suggest?
You know, I just had this conversation with someone yesterday, and she said, I am not a good waker-upper. If you are not a good waker-upper, first thing in the morning probably is not the best time to do that. So, you know, perhaps you take care of the coffee and the kids and everybody is off doing their day, and now you can focus on you, even if it's 2 or 3 hours after you woke up. That might be the perfect time to take that few minutes to start in on, now I need to honor myself. Or, you know, if you're the kind of person who does have a really great night routine, incorporate that into your night routine. You know, you stopped watching TV, you're not scrolling on the screen, you're reading some beautiful passages, but maybe you're not really tuning into yourself or your heart or that inner peace that you forgot was even there. That might be the best time. So I don't know that I can say that unilaterally across the board, but anytime you find yourself in nature is a perfect time to do it.
Yeah, I agree with that. We actually had a podcast on nature therapy, and I think we forget just how important just getting outside is. And most of us, you know, let's face it, most of us, I wouldn't say most of us, but a large portion of us are, you know, locked up inside most of the day at work.
Yeah.
And you know, nature was created for us.
Yeah.
We were meant to enjoy it. There are so many benefits that we don't even know or understand and never will just by getting outside. It's more than just getting sunlight and vitamin D. There are so many other things, neurotransmitters that are stimulated and things that we don't even know about that benefits us just from getting outside.
Absolutely. And getting away from the screens. You know, our life has become so technical. And I personally just don't feel like our bodies are designed to handle all of that energy and all of that electricity and staring at a screen all day. You know, we are meant to move, even if it's just a quick walk around the block, just a little bit of movement. You know, a lot of people will argue and say, well, we don't even have fresh air anymore. Well, you know, at least you're moving your body.
Yeah. And there you get, you know, focus on the positive. It's like,
we do what we can, right?
Yeah, exactly. Do what you can. I mean, I got to think that going outside and getting fresh air is a lot better than doing it inside of a climate controlled building. I would sure think. And,
you know, some of the buildings that I've worked in have been incredibly dusty and incredibly moldy. I don't want to be in them. You know, it's not healthy air. So, and, you know, we have things that can help our bodies with all of the pollutants in our world too. So there's a lot of things that we can do for the actual cells of our body too. So yes, the air is a little toxic. Yes, the water is a little toxic. In some places, the water is really toxic, especially right now. Soil can be toxic. It's really about what we can do and not getting so overburdened by the stressors of the world, because there's just nothing that we can do about that. We focus on what we can do for our bodies and our mind and our spirit and what we do want. And it's just a much more peaceful place to live, because when you've been dealing with chronic illness for so long, it's so easy to get so over-focused on that thing. And the burden itself, it can be so heavy. It can be really, really hard to shift gears and to focus on what you do want when you feel so far away from it. But that's why I say you eat that elephant one bite at a time. You don't take it in all at once. Just do a few minutes a day consistently for an extended period of time and just build on that solid, strong foundation.
I agree 100%. And back on the toxin thing, I think some people, and I think this is kind of what you were alluding to, so help me out here maybe. Some people get so stressed out about, toxic water and toxic air, and that in reality they make their bodies unhealthy by trying to follow something so perfect. So
Yes.
only eat this, only drink this. Oh, I can't drink that. And then they put themselves in a bad situation. Now, here's how I look at it, Lori. I'm not all about polluted air and polluted soil and polluted water. I think we should do our best to keep it clean and to drink the cleanest, and eat the cleanest food and breathe the cleanest air. But also, our bodies are created wonderfully to be able to detoxify ourselves. So if we have a healthy body, some of those toxins are not as bad as we might think they would be, because we can detoxify our body. And I think sometimes getting OCD about preventing toxins in your body can be worse for your mental health and then your physical health. What do you got to say?
Absolutely. It goes back to the beliefs. Our beliefs run our thoughts, and our thoughts run our all of our perception, and really create the life that we live. So if you believe it is not safe to go out of your house because the world is just so polluted, there's going to be a problem. And I can speak to OCD pretty well. I used to have OCD. So it really is very incapacitating. It is really debilitating on the body and the mind and the spirit. And it's a tough hole to dig yourself out of. And again, that's why I so strongly urge people to just 5 minutes, give yourself 5 minutes to start working yourself out of that pit, because it is such a lonely, confusing place to be. I have all of the compassion in the world for people who struggle with chronic mystery illness, especially. That was me. I lived it for decades, and it was miserable. But when you start to understand what beliefs are driving the bus, and when you start to understand that even though your body isn't detoxing well at all, there are things that you can do. There are formulas that you can take. I actually work with one of the world's most brilliant scientists who has developed some formulas that are so incredibly gentle, like nothing I've ever met. I've done some detoxes and they have not been pretty. The stuff is so gentle for even the most sick person. There is something you can do. There's always something you can do. But we have to be willing to let go of some of those fears and some of those beliefs that are kind of ruining our lives. If it's not working for you, today might be your day to say, I can't do this anymore. I'm not willing to do this to myself anymore. I have to make some kind of change to have some kind of joy in life and some kind of peace in life, and get my body back to where it needs to be so it does start to detox on its own, and those pathways can open up again, and the garbage out is actually working again. Because a lot of people who do have the OCDs and the ADDs and all of these acronyms often don't detox well at all on their own. So you might need to give it a nudge, but there's always something you can do. One of the biggest phrases that's running around in the last 4 years is, there's nothing you can do. There's nothing you can do. It's not true. If you've ever heard of science of mind, it's all laid out right there for you. Your beliefs create your thoughts. Your thoughts create your reality. And it is absolutely true.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So, Lori, as we wind this podcast up, what do you have a passion for?
I have a passion for helping people heal, because I was so lost and so confused and so lonely. I know what it's like. And I do try to make that road a little less confusing, a whole lot less lonely. And I guess, as much as I really don't want to say the word hope, because that's always seems like such an elusive thing.
Yeah.
I guess maybe promise is a better word. I want to empower people to remember that they can heal. They absolutely can heal. And if they're a believer in any way, shape, or form, by the grace of God, you absolutely can heal. It is absolutely possible. Even if right now you think it's impossible, give yourself the possibility that you can heal.
I love it. So as we wind this podcast up, tell us about your YouTube site and how people can get a hold of you.
Yeah, so my email should be on that YouTube site. This is where I like to have coffee with people really similar to what we're doing today. People who also help other people heal, other solutions that they might have to offer. So yes, you can find me on YouTube. You can find me on Facebook. You can find me on Rumble, although I keep getting shut down on a lot of these platforms. Give it a try.
I hear you. I think you're on LinkedIn too, aren't you?
I am on LinkedIn as well, yes.
Yeah. So, well, you've helped us realize our goal today, Lori, which is to educate and empower individuals to take charge of their own health. And that's what it's all about.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah. So I appreciate you being on and helping us achieve that goal. And I look forward to chatting with you more in the future and learning more. I learned a lot today, as I always do on podcasts. And it's always a quick reminder for myself of some of the things that I need to do to keep my body healthy. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure.
And listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Tune in Monday to our regularly scheduled podcast, 12:30 to 1:30 Pacific Standard Time. Thank you for listening.